Hi, welcome everyone. So, just like in previous game, I'm expecting white pieces, but yeah, we had black. So let's see if we are going to get whites this time. Now, if we are playing white, we are going to play the Vienna system type of position, as I like to call it. We are now 1200 and we are playing against 1086 opponent from Vietnam. So this is going to be a typical Vienna position with knight c3. And the system goes with the g3, d3, bishop g2, knight ge2. And then we have a look where we develop our bishop. We don't play any Vienna gambit, anything that's close to an open game. We're aiming to play the closed game. And this is quite often to be seen in some of the games that the grandmasters are playing when they are basically doing the blitz games. So now when the bishop attacks our knight, we absolutely don't mind if the bishop gets traded for our knight. However, we will support our knight with knight ge2. And the reason is quite simple. We still want to keep a look on e4 pawn, and we want to keep our pawn structure as flexible as possible. And if black wants to give us a pair of bishops like any time, we also keeping an eye on the d5 square. This is very similar to Botvinnik system. That's why we are testing these two against each other. But in Botvinnik system, you want to play c4. However, when we are playing the Botvinnik system, we quite often just avoid playing the e4 move and play more flexible e3 move, which I'm then not sure if it's really a Botvinnik system. It more resembles the line that you would get in Sicilian Khan that we are playing, but in Sicilian Khan we are usually developing the knight on f6 square instead of knight ge2, so I'm still referring to these things. So black is planning to push d5 anyway, which might be actually quite a good plan for them. In those cases, we usually support the e4 pawn with a move like d3. If we are going to get into an endgame with the queens of the board, that's also fine. My question is how to react the best to this option of d5. I think the best to do here is castle as usual. And if d5 comes, we will just simply play d3. We want to play this as quietly as possible. That's, we let black do what they want to do. And only after we finish our development and our typical moves, only then we strike ourselves. We start looking for active plans. So black is going for the d5 move as expected. So we want to keep at least one pawn in the center. So the d3 move is now a natural move to support the pawn. Also, we are looking forward to developing our bishop onto the g5. And now that bishop g4 is played, this is actually an interesting move. We might want to kick the bishop, see where the bishop is going, and basically we don't mind if any of the bishops go traded. If there will be take on c3 first, then we can first of all take on g4 ourselves, or we can take with the b pawn as well, which I believe both of these moves are okay to be played. We don't want to play move like f3 yet. So we are going to attack the bishop and ask basically where is the bishop gonna go. And maybe now, actually, when I think about this position, I should have played bishop g5 instead and asking a question of d5 pawn. So that's probably one move where I could have gone better by playing bishop g5 first, because that would literally threaten to win a pawn. But that's okay. We don't always, make the best moves, and we know it. So the black is playing d4. Well, in which case, for us, it's quite simple. We need to retreat our knight. But do we need to retreat our knight? I mean, for us it would be quite fine as well to recapture on c3 with the pawn. And get a nice pawn structure in the middle. So I believe our plan will consist in, we are also going to win some tempo by hitting the bishop back. So I quite like our position. And in the process of all this, we also won a pawn, even though it's like a half pawn, because we are losing a little bit of stake in the center. But now we are attacking the bishop. The bishop will have to move. This taking here also means that we can, in some cases, put the bishop on a long diagonal and put the pressure on there. And move like g5 is letting us to kick the knight away from the square where it would like to reside. Bishop a5. I was more expecting bishop on c5, as on this diagonal at least the bishop would be doing something useful. We can straight away try and expand in the center, but I believe in this case it's good to ask the knight, where are you going, Mr. Knight? From that point also bishop would be better here, so if the knight goes here it can potentially take on g3. Knight to g4 though looks like a clear blunder to me, as the knight now gets simply trapped on g4. It doesn't have any more escape squares. So all we need to do is to ask the knight, where is it gonna go? The only issue is that at the moment we cannot win the knight straight away. Oh, actually we will be able to win the knight straight away. We just need to figure out how to move this knight in the end. Actually, let's not worry about it much, because we are able to... Yeah, we are able to trap the knight straight away. If not, we are going to ruin the pawn structure a little bit of the opponent. So f3 move doesn't work because bishop b6, oh no, we can play d4. So yes, the f3 move is what's gonna trap the bishop, because after bishop b6 we have just a simple move d4. So whenever you play with the knight forward into someone else's position, just look where the knight can go, and this pawn already is taking his escape squares at the back. The only square that the knight can potentially fight for if we play f3 is the e3, but we have our bishop still here controlling, and bishop b6 doesn't work for d4. If you take, we are still enough time on d4, and therefore we are just going to win the... Oh, yeah. Okay, actually it's not so simple. Because if we play f3, he plays bishop b6 check, and we play d4, then after taking here, if we take the knight, then d3 I will have to play knight to d4, because if I'll be in check, so I will have to play knight to d4. And then bishop takes d4, cd4, queen d4 check is going to hit the rook and win the rook potentially. So that doesn't work. And if f3, bishop b6, d4, ed4, cd4. Now the knight can jump onto e5, because we cannot capture the knight, as the knight suddenly has an escape square on the e5, and we are pinned on this side. So that's why we're not going to play the f3 move. We instead are going to play bishop h3 move and potentially open the h file for our pieces. If he's gonna play h5, which seems to be the best move here. But since the knight is still going to be trapped, then we will allow ourselves one more move, king g2, and then the f3 will be possible suddenly. So we need to play this move first. Now when you see, this black played slightly differently this position, and we could have probably got much more advantage if he played bishop g5 first. But even if he didn't, there is always like lots of poison to these positions, and it's like a slow strategic position for us, but oftentimes it's working charm. So we just play king to g2. The threat now is to play f3, and the knight is definitely trapped. Now even if black already sees it, there is nothing he can do to prevent the knight from being trapped. Even if you play f6, f3 already is trapping the knight, and the knight has nowhere to go. So it's like a lasting advantage. If bishop b6 is played now, the d4 is no longer helping white to escape through e5, as there's no more pins. So after f3, it's simply game over. Now the only thing we have to prove, as usual, is if we have enough technique to be able to convert the extra piece that we are winning. And so far we were pawn up after the intermezzo that we play h3 and he played d4. So that already cost black the pawn. So I don't expect much in this game for our opponent. The only option I saw here is if he could play f5, we cannot capture the knight yet, but we would have to capture on f5 ourselves first. So now there's equality of the pieces, but yes, we are winning the pawn, the knight for nothing basically. So, and our pieces are in a good attacking position. So h3 actually doesn't mean so much, h4 doesn't mean so much to us, because it might only help us to activate our knight, which we will welcome. So what we are going to try and do, we can try and develop bishop here to attack the rook. We can also still keep the bishop here, and instead we might try and develop our queen into more attacking position. So we will do this move first. The idea is if the king takes, we play queen f1, queen f5, and if the queen takes here, as it happened, then we can first play bishop takes g5. So we win a pawn. If the black takes on g3 first, then we will offer trade of the queens first. And as we said, this is, as I said, this is already a position we should win. I wouldn't take here because of bishop c3, so I wouldn't take there with the king as well, because the king is already having a nice position where it is. So, and I would definitely like to prevent queen f2 check. So what we're going to do, I'm going to play queen f1. Although I'm not super excited that black can play queen f2 check, but even if we have to move the king and win the pawn that way, it's still fine, as we are already up a knight. So queen to c5 is being played, and that's a fine move for black in this position. So again, we can maybe try and hit the queen already with the d4, but d4 would be a problem, because if he takes here, our bishop will be hanging. So instead, I'm going to try again to attack the queen a little bit with the queen to g1 maybe. Or I can retreat the bishop onto d2 and protect my pieces that way, but I prefer to still offer the queen trade here. But bishop d2 will be super useful move in the future, so... But yes, I don't want white to have any kind of good development right now, so I'll play queen g1 first, ask one last time, do you want to trade the queen with me? That also doesn't allow any time to play queen takes c3 or bishop c3. The knight is protecting to begin with, and you don't want to be losing the queen for the knight. I hope that's obvious. And now if black plays queen f8 again, bishop c3 was played. I thought this is not possible. And I think our opponent will find that real quick as well, that although it is technically possible, practically speaking, this is the last nail in the coffin. We're going to take the queen. Black's best chance is to take the rook, but the material is too much. We are winning too much material. This is basically the advantage we have. Queen and a knight for a pawn and a rook. So black realized this is not the best way to play, and they resign. One of the signature of what's happening when we are playing those weaker players, and you will notice that it's quite obvious, that our opponents don't spend too much time when they are playing their moves. So if you want to improve your chess game, you are in the rating range about, say, 1200 and maybe 1000 to 1400. Actually, no matter what level you are at, it always helps you to improve if you take your time management slightly differently. You know, when you have difficult problems to face in the opening, then definitely take your time to sort out these problems before you know, making a move. It's oftentimes better to lose on time and learn something than win on time and learn absolutely nothing. So I would recommend definitely slow down. You know, my opponent had still 13 minutes on their time, and I have been down to 6 minutes. Yes, part of it is due to explaining some stuff, but I still take my time, and I wouldn't make a move if I don't see any follow-up that I want to do. So that's what basically makes you a stronger player, if you spend more time thinking about your moves. So I believe we played so far 4 games, 2 games with the Botvinnik system by playing c4, and 2 games playing with e4. It's still undecisive of what is a better opening, but I still have to say that even though my favorite system is the Vienna, the Botvinnik so far proved much easier and simpler results once we got like lots of pressure against the opponent, and they eventually crumbled. So yeah, this is all from me for today. I will see you tomorrow, and thank you very much for watching the video. See you in the next one.